Well, what's up, everyone? This is Jay and Scott with Revolution Radio. So, we got a pretty busy show today. We're going to talk about the string of mass shootings that have happened across the country. We're going to talk about Mike Lindell's new social media company, which I'm really excited about. We're going to kind of pair that in with Project Veritas's new expose. Um, Earlier on in the week, a lot of people may not have really remembered, but the COVID vaccine was the hot topic. As we heard early, I believe it was Tuesday, that it was causing blood clots, and we found out okay, it's the Johnson and Johnson vaccine that was causing blood clots. Um, say mid-morning, we found out that it was only 6 people, but we still weren't sure how many were actually, six out of how many. There was a lot of speculation, and but this really did it has a huge impact for a lot of reasons. A lot of people who are hesitant to get the vaccine in the first place, this really just, you know, pushes them over that edge. In fact, we've seen in Europe with the AstraZeneca, uh, that one causing blood clots as well. And Europe went from about 60 that down to 48%. So it was a huge impact. Now, the interesting thing is all I've heard about the vaccine is I don't trust it. It's too new. We don't know anything about mRNA vaccines. But the one that's causing the blood clots is not an mRNA vaccine. It's actually a traditional vaccine. And as time went on, we discovered later on in the week it's not even the vaccine itself that was causing it. It's the way that it interacted with a blood thinner and it played the lottery. When I was a kid, I was 18, 19. And my dad was always like, well, you have a 1 in a million shot of winning. And I mean, we have that. We say that with everything. Hey, you get struck by lightning. Half 1 in a million. The the sitting on something and it going up your butt. I'm telling you, Doc, it was 1 in a million. It just means it's super, super rare. It doesn't happen very often. We literally have numbers that are, well, actually 1 in 1.5 million chances of it happening if you're on a certain blood thinner and if you go with the Johnson and Johnson or traditional vaccine for the COVID. Um, if you really are concerned about that kind of thing for a vaccine or for medication, well, don't take birth control because birth control way worse for causing blood clots. Don't take blood pressure medicine at all because side effects of that can lead to straight out AFib at much higher rates, by the way. But either way, this got me looking at the vaccine. Again, before we found out a lot about the numbers coming out, you know, I wanted to do my due diligence and really look into it because most of the research I had done prior to getting vaccinated myself, I determined it was fairly safe. But I hadn't really looked into this as far as the potential. And so I looked into it, and the mRNA vaccine has been really in the thought bubble since like the 1970s in Hungary. Now, granted, it wasn't until uh, 2012 that a Hungarian scientist by the name of Katalin Kariko, I think it's how you say her name, she actually developed it and was working on what they call recipes or codes to actually implement the mRNA vaccine. Aside from COVID, which is, it's huge in and of itself, capability, and I even hesitant to say vaccine as much as I'm to say treatment or technology, is astounding. This is something we should have been talking about years ago. And I bring this up because it has been one of the most consistent forms of treating lung cancer. We've seen actually some case studies coming out of Hungary, but nothing here in America, and a few other countries, not just Hungary, but this has been something that they've been working on for a long time. And again, it could be 4 or 5 years from now, and we could actually be already experimenting with the technology. AIDS, it's got like a 93% effective rate against AIDS, which is one of the highest ones. With prostate cancer and lung cancer, the cases that they tried to implement this same technology on, actually, it was a level 3 and a level 4, and it took care of the cancer. That's insane. And I just think it's really cool. Like it's one of those stories, Scott, where like we're so caught up in the trees, we're not looking at the forest, and the forest is actually it's miraculous. It's a really cool technology. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that.
Well, I would definitely, that since we've been using basic vaccines for about 100 years now, it is, and there were lots of people who said, Louis Pasteur was a crazy man, heating up that milk. Boy, that doesn't sound good to heat up that milk to get rid of those invisible things. But yeah, vaccines are and I don't know if you said blood thinner and in the blood thinner, but not blood pressure medicine. Those are two different things. Coumadin is not the same thing that's in your blood pressure medicine. So
There's Yeah, they both though. What I was saying is like if you take a blood pressure medicine, it can actually cause AFib. That's and look every my point I guess with that to be clear, because yeah, like just for clarification, every medication we take has a potential side effect, not unlike one that is 1 in 1 million, probably some
yeah, well,
that
I'm
are a
just I'm
lot
just saying, don't
closer.
be afraid if you take blood pressure medicine. The real answer is ask your doctor. If you have a general practitioner, JAMA, which is the Journal of American Medical Association, and ask a doctor. People, quite literally billions of people, starting from polio and onwards. And the technology, the mRNA is it's a whole another cookie. It's more training your body to produce, you know, uh, different forms of lymphocytes, different kinds of white cells that actually recognize right off the bat. And they also recognize cancer, which is produced by your own body as a foreign object, making sure that it also doesn't attack good cells. And that's always been the big problem when you're trying to use a virus or a dead virus as a training tool and get the right response from people. And yeah, I mean, it has almost boundless, possibilities considering this. I don't see like the future around all the bad stuff. And yeah, I'll take the viruses, that are weakened or even in some instances, trained to, get the from your body's immune system to do what it's supposed to do, because God knows they've been pumping in all kinds of shit chemicals into our bodies from everyday foods, preservatives, plastics. I mean, we're walking cesspools of industrial toxins, and you don't have a choice. You can't get away with it. I don't care where you move to. Move to Siberia where you're raising your own goats. Yes, you do have a chance to stay away from that stuff, but even they need bottled water up there. And so your best bet is to just stay informed and it read the science. The science is amazing, and that's always what happens with people when they reject something. It's just like the earth is 6,000 years old because the Bible says so, and that's what you're like. Look, I like stories too, but unfortunately there's, I don't know, 10 trillion forms of evidence. Anything else, if you'll just inform yourself and not think that you don't have to get your information from a government source. You can go to science journals, you can go to universities. This stuff is so well documented and so out there for you. The internet is actually a gift if you'll just take the time to read and understand the source material. You will be amazed at what us, these little hairless monkeys, have eventually figured out.
I
And
think you're right to an extent. I also think granted, this is somebody who is not scientifically savvy. Um, that would be my cure. Hey, we're gonna run these little
yeah,
nanites, and
but science fiction has thrown that at us for the last 30 or years or so,
yeah, something
because those
like in the
things are a real possibility. But the problem is they are nowhere near into development by comparison to vaccine research and using there are viruses actually encoded into our own DNA. The whole myth of, like, back in the day before they did the Human Genome Project, is what is all this extra crap that's in our genome? Well, besides the chromosomes, all that extra crap would start to be just like garbage. Not one bit of it ended up being garbage. Every bit of it is what tells the genes and how to work. It's the genes who have switches and when to turn the switch.
no,
Viruses
I
that
mean,
we have beat in the past are actually encoded into our own DNA.
right, yeah, no, again, like I said, like for forever, it was like something you'd see in Futurama or Archer, and that's why I think I brought this up only because uh, it's um, so polarizing right now to talk about the COVID vaccine, but the technology that has brought us that, for me, that's the future of a lot of harmful diseases. And it'll be interesting. Like, are those going to be just as polarizing? Oh, well, that's the RNA thing. I'm not taking the cancer vaccine or what, and it's not a vaccine. It's not.
Yeah,
It's
even
more of a
even with the what
treatment.
was the
But
vaccine female cervix cancer? That people like, we didn't
oh,
have that as an option when
HPV,
we
yeah.
were kids. Yeah, and the HPV vaccine that stops, if maybe you know somebody, an aunt, that has got cervical cancer, that's just a variant of the herpes virus, and it doesn't just affect humans. It almost wiped out all of the. No, don't. This is not a joke.
Koalas,
The
right?
Tasmanian devils in Australia, and they had a transmittable herpes virus that was causing lesions on their face where they couldn't feed, and it almost wiped out the Tasmanian devils.
You know what I was
But we
thinking
saved
of?
them. What?
I was thinking of chlamydia. Chlamydia really screwed up the koala. What's up with Australia? They all need to wear some rubbers or something. Like,
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing to Tasmanian devils down there, but all I can say is it's an entire continent that is terrified of frogs and household cats because their marsupials are so back-ass backward they can't even compete with our pets. So they got a lot to worry about down there with our placental mammals versus theirs. I'm telling you, they poor Australia.
Yeah, no, I again, yeah, I've just been, I've been kind of shocked after looking into this, wondering, do do our news media journalists, are they researching this? Do they know like how amazing this technology is, or are they just focused on the COVID aspect of it? I mean, obviously I was until I did some research, but it's amazing. I think it's just one of those things that you should really take the time to look into. The AIDS stuff we found out, ALS, MS. I mean, these horrible, horrible diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries could be wiped out by this technology. And again, I don't think everything I've read wasn't 100%. It wasn't, but it gives us a much better chance at fighting this stuff. And yet
Well, and it's good
we're
that
spending all of our
everybody
time
comes
talking about the
together.
COVID. That's my thing. It's like, oh, let's just talk about the COVID. Well, wait, there's so much more. But anyway, that's why I just wanted to bring that to the forefront and talk about it.
No, and I'll just want to say that it's amazing to see a lot of the world's scientific community come together under pressure and see how well they act, because this isn't the last thing we're going to face. And people say, well, we'd have this and this cured if we, they just want to treat the symptoms. And while that may be true for the pharmaceutical companies, the right pressure on them for the scientific community to get together and solve a problem, I it'll make you have restore a little faith in humanity when they do it.
Yeah, I think that's well said.